Vote for your favorite teacher. Winners receive prizes from Nina's Boutique and Brighter Smiles.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
It's 11:06 on WSIC News, and you're listening to I'm Just Saying with David. Senator Sawyer is on vacation, well-deserved vacation. But if you'd like to be part of my show, 844 Studio 4, we are streaming live on the WSIC News app. So as I said, Vicky is on vacation, so I'm flying solo, at least for the first segment. We'll have a guest host who will come riding in hot, run a little bit behind, but we will have Representative Jason Saine joining me today as a guest host. Lots to talk about, obviously, with the, I guess it's been a little bit since I've been on here. Between July 4th and then last week I was on vacation myself. So a lot's happened since the last time I was on here, between assassination attempts, RNC convention, continuing rumors of Joe Biden being forced out as the Democratic nominee. And then, of course, today, if you're at the DMV, you're not getting anywhere. It's a lot slower than normal. And if you're trying to fly somewhere, you're not going anywhere. But we are up and running here on WSIC News, and we're just saying, again, 844 Studio 4 if you'd like to be part of the show. So a couple of thoughts. I don't have anything really revolutionary to talk about in relation to the assassination attempt. I was out of town watching it, and I got to say, one of the things that the group I was with and we started talking about was how. Did you ever think you would see these kind of days in this country? Assassination attempts were the thing of decades and decades ago, right? President Reagan, obviously the last, prior to President Trump, the last, president to be shot. There have been attempts on presidents before, but you generally didn't hear about them because they failed. Secret Service headed them off. But, seeing what happened on Saturday, the reactions, and one of the things that's amazing to me about this really is, I think, the first ever assassination attempt to take place with about thousands and thousands and thousands of cameramen on the site. You see all the cell phone videos, different angles. And what's amazing is I really firmly believe the things we know about this to date right now would never have been possible without those folks with their cell phone cameras. It just never would have happened. I don't know that we would have been informed yet of the missteps of, some of the Secret Service protection as it relates to the president. And first and foremost, let's shout out to the folks who jumped on the Secret Service agents who jumped on the stage, covered him up. Those are people who put their lives on the line to protect our presidents and former presidents. So absolutely shout out to them. But what continues to come out is the poor preparation, the gaps in protection. I mean, when you hear that there was local law enforcement was aware of this shooter 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes before it ever happened, and nothing was done. Trump was still allowed to go on stage. You shake your head and say, what in the world is going on? Now, as you all know, if you listen to this show, for any period of time, Senator Sawyer and I, we love a good conspiracy theory every now and then. We got our tinfoil hats that we like to put on occasionally, more for fun than anything. But, when you look at the lapses that are happening here, you would like to believe that level of gross negligence is not possible. But apparently it is, or it's not possible. And, that's one of the things that I think we will find out. I know that congressional hearings are going to be taking place on this, and they should. Congress is there. This is one of the functions of Congress, is oversight of agencies and of situations like this. So I really hope that tough questions are asked, that they get to the bottom of these things. And, some people have got to be held account for this. And that's just how it's got to be. But, flowing in, thank the good Lord that President Trump is okay. When you see the millimeters by which that bullet missed, going, straight into his head, it just really just gives you pause. And just amazing what it took, the inches between life and death really are humbling to look at. So very happy that he is okay. Obviously, the Republican National Convention just finished up last night. If you stayed up late and watched, President Trump's speech, was very good. A little long for my taste, but he does like to talk, and he does like to keep going. And and he does enjoy, going off script a little bit. But really, I think overall, as conventions go, the RNC really was very successful. Coming off of a convention, coming off an assassination attempt, it's tough to know what exactly it is you're supposed to say, how you're supposed to act, what it is you're supposed to do. And so I think one of the things that was amazing about this convention was the upbeat nature, the positive nature, the message of hope that came out of it. I really think it was amazing coming out of that, and it had to be a difficult thing to put that together and to have the right tone as you went through this convention, especially after something like that. But we do have a caller on the line. Hi, you are on We're Just Saying with David. Senator Sawyer's not here, but hi, welcome.
Hey, David, this is William.
Hey, William, how you doing, buddy?
Listen, all the events that took place this week with the RNC in Milwaukee, and obviously the bad situation that took place on last Saturday, it got me thinking about things. I mean, there's two words that I can use to describe that event that took place Saturday. Is sadness, number one, and madness, number two. I'm sad because of Corey lost his life protecting his family. He is a hero for sure.
100%.
That makes me sad with the people that were injured and everybody else, including Donald Trump and that were affected by that situation. My heart and thoughts and prayers go out to each and every one of them. The mad part about me is that should have not happened. That could have been prevented. We are probably never going to find out all of the answers to the questions that we have. Hopefully we will find out the right ones and enough ones to make sure that something like this does not happen again. As being a private citizen, and I urge every private citizen out here to continue to fund and help out and support your local law enforcement agencies, as well as so they can help the bigger ones on the national spectrum. It made me want to get my checkbook out because I can afford to do it and help the local law enforcement. Remember back in 2020 when everybody was talking about defunding the police, just think about that. I mean, if they succeed in doing that and we'd had no law enforcement that day last Saturday, that situation would have been horribly worse.
No, 100%.
So protecting the law enforcement out here, supporting them so they can protect and help us, as well as you elected officials to protect them as well. It takes a team in this, and I think that Donald Trump is humbled by the situation that happened to him, and I think his speech last night was spot on and really good. For this country, we're going to try to get this thing around for protection. They called for unity earlier this week, and that goes on both sides. I think that Joe Biden's administration needs to step up to the plate and set bygones be bygones and, set things aside, and we all come together for this country, because we're all, at the end of the day, we're Jesus' children, and we're Americans, and we need to all come together, like the Beatles song said, come together and work together as a team.
100%, William, and thank you so much for the call and great message. And I really want to highlight something William said before we go to break. When we see national tragedies like this and things happen at the national level, it's real easy to get focused in on the national level, but thinking locally about our local law enforcement who are out there protecting us every day, our firefighters, our police, our paramedics, remember them in these situations and take the opportunity like William did. Thank them, donate, take some brownies to the fire station, something like that. Great message, William. You're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. We'll be right back.
There's more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicki Sawyer on the way from 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, ending the work week on a bit of a cooler note, especially compared to what we've had over the last couple of weeks. Partly cloudy, temperatures warm into the mid and upper 80s this afternoon. And while the better rain and storm chance stays to our south and east, an isolated downpour or pop-up thunderstorm can't be totally ruled out for the afternoon and evening. Partly cloudy, we're back down around 70 overnight. Heading into the weekend, highs in the mid 80s, and we'll track a round of scattered showers and storms each afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like ISI Denver.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. On Thursday, Brookdale Village in Huntersville welcomes Dave Scott Crow's Amusination Academy. An afternoon of imagination, music, and amusement will be on the green at Brookdale Village. Dave's Amusination concert and Pick Me Up Mike are crowd favorites. Come relax and enjoy, or take the stage. It's perfect for the whole family. The fun begins at 4:30 Thursday afternoon, July 18th on the green at Brookdale Village in Huntersville. Langtree Live continues their live music series on Thursday. Alex Key takes the stage at 7 p.m. for this free concert. Event time is 6:30. Bring your chairs early and enjoy the food and beverages that Langtree restaurants have to offer. We'll see you on Thursday evening for Langtree Live's free concert series. Come see the coolest cars, trucks, and motorcycles at Hot Rods and Hops this Friday night at RevFast in Mooresville. This monthly show welcomes all auto enthusiasts with vehicles on display, food trucks, beer from Hoptown Brewing, and the Hot Rod community. Come see old friends and make some new ones on Friday night after 5 at the Late Apex Storage Condos in Mooresville for Hot Rods and Hops. The kids' edition of Battle of the Bands takes place Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville. 6 bands, 2 stages, song versus song, set versus set with one champion. Come see the future of the local music scene powered by Waves Entertainment. 4 p.m. Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville with the kids' edition of Battle of the Bands. The Cookout Summer Shootout Series at Charlotte Motor Speedway gives you your midweek need for speed. This 10-race series, night number 9, is on Tuesday, July 23rd on the front stretch quarter-mile oval. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets, details, and information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Call now to speak with NC Senator Vicky Sawyer at 844-STUDIO-4. It's We're Just Saying on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. Well, normally with Senator Vicky Sawyer and David, the good senator is on vacation, still awaiting the arrival of our illustrious guest host, Representative Jason Saine. He does like to make an entrance, so as soon as he gets here, we will make sure to have the appropriate pomp and circumstance for his arrival, but should be arriving momentarily. Before the break, we were talking about the RNC convention. William called in, with some great thoughts about law enforcement and supporting local law enforcement. But going back, to the Republican National Convention, one of the things that I had mentioned was the difficulty that it had to be for them to orchestrate a convention around this, because there's so many ways something like this could go wrong. Coming out of an assassination attempt of a presidential candidate, going into the convention, a lot of anger, a lot of emotion filtering in through that. There's been a lot of talk about tamping down the rhetoric, and that rhetoric had gotten too heated. I found it ironic that President Biden did an interview, I believe, with Lester Holt, where he talked about needing to tamp down the rhetoric, and then immediately said, well, how do you describe someone who's literally a threat to our democracy? And so it's kind of like, yeah, you're not really tamping it down there, Joe. And that's not really soothing things and calming people down. But I really thought what was great is that coming out of the convention, and even many in the media, on CNN, not MSDNC, obviously those they were too scared to even show up. They had to sit in front of an LED screen, pretend that they were there. But CNN and other networks that were there, universally coming into that was the positive tone of the convention. It could have been one of anger. It could have been one of attack, and in many cases justifiably so, but it wasn't. It was a message of positive. It was a message of unity. It was a message of vision for the future of how we get this country back on track as to where it needs to go. And, no one, I don't think any, logical person or someone who really doesn't suffer from a fair amount of cognitive dissonance could say that this country is better off than it was under Donald Trump. Pandemic aside, that wasn't his fault. That was a global pandemic. So I really don't think you can put the blame for the effects of that pandemic onto Donald Trump. It was what it was. But you have seen record inflation. You have seen unemployment, is rising or stagnant. You have seen it more difficult to buy groceries. You have seen it more expensive to buy everything. People are having trouble buying houses because interest rates are so high. By no conceivable metric can someone look at the last, 3.5 years and say that, yes, this has been better than it was under Donald Trump. By no metric can it even be said. And so I really think that people are going to look at that. And, one of the things that we have, consistently talked about was, people vote with their wallets. That's just a reality. And, when the election happened when the election happened between President Biden and President Trump 4 years ago, it was a very different time in our country. People, that we were still coming and dealing with the effects of the pandemic. And I think people, knew Joe Biden as somebody who they had, known for 40 years in politics. Steady hand, felt like, well, he's not, at that time it was, he's not too crazy. He's a middle of the road kind of guy. He's somebody that, maybe I'm not completely in line with the Democratic Party, but I feel like Joe Biden might be a steady hand. And, and I think you saw a lot of people flock to that. Now, little did we know that the deterioration of him mentally and in his ability and his capacity to do the job would dwindle to the degree that, there were signs then, but, it has, obviously markedly worse to the point where, there are Democrats, very high profile Democrats calling for Joe Biden to step down. And that has been happening since the debate. There have been some people who tried to recover it and say, oh, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But what we have really found is yeah, it is that bad, to the point where it's almost an inter-party coup taking place inside of the Democratic Party. And speaking of inter-party coups, Representative Jason Saine, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Good, man. Good. I feel like I've been a part of the show. I've been listening to you on my way in. Had someone late to a meeting, which makes me late, so I apologize for that.
It's not a problem at all. I'm just happy that you could come and join us today with Senator Sawyer out on vacation.
Where is she? Well, maybe we shouldn't disclose.
Undisclosed location.
Okay. Right.
Undisclosed location.
Good for her. We've been able to take a little bit of a break, and so she's got a well-deserved break too. So good for her.
Absolutely. So, I want to address the elephant in the room real quick. Retiring Representative Jason Saine.
I am retiring. We didn't mention much about it on my show on Wednesday.
Well, you're far too humble to talk about yourself that way.
I am.
So now you can come talk about yourself here.
Enough about you. Let's talk about me.
Exactly.
I know. It's just right time for us. I'm 50. Our son is 16. Just turned 16. He's playing football this year, first time with Lincoln Charter, their new program. I don't want to miss those years. And as we onboard him to college, all that kind of been at the back of my mind. And Speaker Brubaker had told me one time, he's been my mentor. I knew him as a young Republican. He brought me into his office when he was Speaker and spent 3 hours with me once upon a time for some kid that he didn't even know. And I had a good friend, Dana Simpson, who worked in his office, who's now a lobbyist in Raleigh. But Dana said, why don't you come in and meet the Speaker? So I did, and we just hit it off. And I asked him probably 6-7 years ago, I said, when did you know it was the right time to leave the legislature? Because I got served with him a term when I got appointed, at least the remainder of my term. And he said, you just kind of wake up one day and He said, you're not mad. You might be frustrated because you're always frustrated a little bit at the legislature. You're dealing with 169 other people plus everything else that goes along with it. And he said, you just kind of know. And I'd kind of been in that headspace for about the last year. I mean, you and I are good friends. You know me. Jackson said, once you got sports betting passed, he said, Dad, I just don't think you felt all that challenged and you maybe looking for purpose. I mean, that's the wisdom of a 16-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a smart kid. And I said, you're probably right. And so it just, and it kind of a piece came over me. And I said, I'm frustrated about this budget this year, not getting it done. And that's not disparaging toward anybody involved. People disagree for good reasons. And so I don't mind that. There's things I hate we're going to miss. Really wanted pay raises for state employees. They're suffering through Bidenomics just like the rest of us. Turns out elections do have consequences. that some cybersecurity stuff that we're working on, as we're talking about, planes being dismissed today because of some cybersecurity issues. I mean, those type of things that I'd like to get to, they'll eventually get to them. So it's not the end of the world. And you get there and it's middle of summer. And I walked out off the floor that Thursday and I said, I think this is right. I think it's right. Entertaining some offers, but, kind of always entertaining offers. These are a little more serious, so I can't really make those decisions till I retire.
Yeah.
But that's scheduled for August 12th, and then we'll have a good bourbon or something like that and celebrate and raise a glass. But I look back on a career and I go, you know what, I'm satisfied, and I think for a lot of folks they don't get to do that, and I can, and that's why it feels right. Timing works for my family. Timing works for me. There's a couple things I wanted to do. One, give enough time to the local party to onboard somebody. That gives them the benefit of having some seniority when they go in, which is the same thing I had as I took over Jonathan Ryan's term. It's some familiarity with the building. I don't feel like I'm leaving my district in a bad place, actually leaving it in a great place, particularly who I think will probably end up with the nomination and becoming, they don't have an opponent in the fall. Someone said, well, you don't even have an opponent. Why would you leave now? Like, that's the best time to leave.
That's the best time to leave.
And then they said, well, that kind of does make sense. So, but no, thank you. I, give a number of interviews. It leaked out early on Monday. I had a whole plan. Like, I'll let it, I talked to 4 or 5 reporters. I said, this is coming on Monday, but if you can hold it till 4 o'clock, wanted time to call colleagues and other people that I'm engaged with and constituents that are working on things with. Well, that didn't happen. So
no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy.
No, that's right. When there's no secrets. Once told, it's out, and so which is fine, except for I've been playing catch up all week trying to get everybody called and text and return emails. Of course, you return one text that means there's 3 or 4 more to follow it. So it's been a lot of time management issues this week. But and then I had a flat tire on I-85, which was actually somewhat peaceful. I had to wait on the rollback to come get the car and take it to a tire place and all that. But I got through it, and my wife said, she goes, you must be at peace with this week. She goes, you didn't even really get upset about that. You got no choice but to just go through it,
Absolutely.
But here we are. And I thank you for asking. It's been an incredible run. I mean, I've been incredibly blessed to get to do what I get to do. Having done both finance chair and appropriations chair, no one's ever done that. At least in modern history, at the legislature. So it gives me a unique perspective on things. Done a lot on IT, work on child advocacy centers, which I know is important to you as well. Those things with firefighters, I've just really enjoyed it. It's been good. Yeah.
Well, you've done a lot of good work, and one thing that a lot of people may not realize is that how I got to know you was when I was on the Mooresville City Council, and our representative at the time, the good Robert Brawley, ran afoul of Speaker Tom Tillis in a fairly significant way, to the point where he was, punished as can happen, stripped of all committee assignments, stuff like that. So we were effectively without a representative, and you became almost our de facto representative inside of Southern Iredell County. And that's how we first got to know each other. And so, and you took our calls, you stepped in, you never once hesitated to assist us. Not something that you had to do, but you basically took on another district for a period of time, advocating for us and the things that we needed. And so I don't think a lot of people realize that you did that and how much it meant just to our community as a whole, because had you not been there to do that, we would have been in a pretty bad spot.
Well, thank you for telling folks. That's exactly what happened. And again, it's all about relationships in this business. And, we had enough mutual friends that had reached out to me. Carney had, was my state senator at that time, and Mayor Carney. And he put us all in touch with each other. And we were able to get things done for Mooresville, Southern Iredell, and just stepped in and kind of fixed the problem. Of course, Speaker Tillis was great about that, too, because he knew we had so many mutual friends here on the lake. And to be able to get to do that, those are kind of the unique things. At some point in time, we might record a video or some fireside chat or something. about just some of the cool things that have happened during my career.
So, and there's a number, and there's some we can tell, some we can't, but that's all right. but nothing bad, of course, but it's amazing what people will say to you in public when they recognize you're an elected official. And we've had a couple of those.
I've got a whole file.
You got a whole file. You're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. We'll be right back.
We'll return with more of NC Senator Vicky Sawyer, and We're Just Saying after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, ending the work week on a bit of a cooler note, especially compared to what we've had over the last couple of weeks. Partly cloudy, temperatures warm into the mid and upper 80s this afternoon. And while the better rain and storm chance stays to our south and east, an isolated downpour or pop-up thunderstorm can't be totally ruled out for the afternoon and evening. Partly cloudy, we're back down around 70 overnight. Heading into the weekend, highs in the mid 80s, and we'll track a round of scattered showers and storms each afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Texting enrolls you into reoccurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T.
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION to 42424.
Folks, here at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, we have got the brand new 2025 Chevrolet Traverse in stock, all redesigned from front to back, top to bottom, inside and out. Come see them today. We have got a great selection of these new Traverses ready for you to take home. And also, we got great discounts on our Silverado trucks. We got the regular cab, crew cab, double cabs, discounted up to $9,000 off. Great selection, Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, right on I-40.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Looking for a large private room for your next work function? Or maybe you need a place to bring the whole family for a delicious meal? Pomodoros of Mooresville has the perfect space for your crowd. Book your next event at Pomodoros.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The biggest company in the business of protecting other companies from cyber attacks is having its day, and not in a good way. Shares of security software giant CrowdStrike have tumbled as much as 15% as it struggles to fix a faulty patch affecting Microsoft Windows that led to cascading system-wide failures, paralyzing the operations of clients including airlines, banks, global retailers, and healthcare systems. A patch to fix the patch is currently being rolled out. Amid industry warnings that spending on credit cards has slowed in recent months and more cardholders are falling behind on their payments, American Express says it plans to aggressively ramp up its marketing in hopes of courting the more financially stable customers it prefers. But that means a 15% jump in the company's marketing budget, and even though you have to spend money to make money, Amex shareholders don't like it. The stock is down 4%. Wall Street at large is lower, the Dow losing 0.2%, NASDAQ down 1/3, S&P down 1/4. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Now more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying with special guest host Representative Jason Saine and David. If you'd like to be part of our show, 844 Studio 4. We are still streaming live on the WSIC News app. So just before you got here, I had mentioned the fact that, you know, myself and the good senator, we enjoy a good conspiracy theory. Sure. We tend to put our tinfoil hats on. And so a conspiracy theory and a tinfoil hat that began many, many months ago with me talking on the show, not to toot my own horn, but kind of toot, was that Biden would not be the nominee. He would not be on the ballot. And it seems as though we are continuing to move in that direction. Now, will it come to pass? I don't know. I think Jill Biden is holding on to this thing with a death grip. She doesn't want to let go of the power, the notoriety, or probably the free rides that she gets places. But we're hearing more and more chatter about it, more and more Democrats coming out. Will Joe Biden be the nominee?
Well, I don't necessarily believe in conspiracy theories, but I'm surprised they let him live that long. No, in all seriousness, they know they're in trouble. They're in huge trouble. And we could spin conspiracy theories all day. And watching what happened on Saturday, I mean, my opinion still won't be public, except for the fact that I just see too much that's just really bad, which means it looks a lot like a government operation because it is so bad and so poorly executed, much like what's happening in the Biden campaign right now. Look, they are in deep doo-doo, and they see no way to win. They are desperate. They will throw him overboard. I don't want to feed crazy conspiracies, but I'll say this. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, you don't have to have a conspiracy. They're out there. The knives are out. He has stayed too long. He is a shell of the man that he used to be. Even though I don't particularly care for him, I do remember the Joe Biden that was the senator that could go toe-to-toe with Senator Helms when they were on foreign relations together and so forth. So all of that, he really has. I mean, you don't have to be a doctor to figure this out. You can see it for yourself. That being said, I don't know what fool wants to jump in and take his place. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's something to be said, hey, just lose gracefully and go quietly into the night, because you step in, whether or not they can transfer the money or not, I don't know. That's not even the problem. The problem is that you've got to run a national campaign that usually takes people at least 2 to 4 years to ramp up to, and you've got to do it overnight. And that, I think, is the biggest challenge for the Democrats right now. Their fundraising has been anemic here in the state. Before I leave, I am still the House Conference Chairman. We've done so much better on candidate recruitment. We've done so much better on fundraising. All of that, and that the reason for that is, one, I got a great conference leader, but second,
of course,
second is that their messaging has been poor. They've got a feeble candidate that's running. Age-wise doesn't really matter. It's how young you are at heart, and this guy's clearly in decline, and that is sad. And it's also sad that the people around him are so dependent on that job and holding on to that power that they've allowed this to happen. We had a state senator one time, won't mention him by name. He's gone now, but you could tell that he had come to this place in his life where things weren't coming together. And we had a conversation with the family, a number of us, and that the family, of course, cared for him, and he left public office. And age gets us all, as our veterinarian says. Either old age or cancer will get everybody. Yeah. Period. And so, it's arrived for him, and it's dangerous for the country. It is dangerous for every facet of our democracy right now. And the Republic is in trouble if we don't have a change. My hope is that we can hold out a few more months and to where someone is in office that's capable. But the Dems, they were behind him 110%, as long as he was raising money, as long as he's speaking well. And then you've just seen this decline over the last several months. I mean, it's been happening, but it is. I mean, when Trump used to call him Sleepy Joe, hey, older guy, fine. But now it's just to a point where you can't deny it. They can't deny it. And the fact of the matter is, we've been lied to for a long time. They're just now arriving to the fact that they're ready to admit it.
Right. And I think one of the interesting things about this is that, you mentioned, those around him, allowing this. I said this a couple of weeks ago after the debate. You'll never convince me that Jill Biden doesn't hate her husband, because no loving spouse could ever put their spouse through what she allows him to go through. I'm sorry that you'll never convince me that she is just not power hungry and can't stand him, and he's just a vessel, for her own ambition, for her own whatever. But there's no love there. I mean, I'm sorry if that offends somebody, but actually, I'm really not sorry if I'm sorry, because that's just the truth. There's no way in the world you could love your spouse and allow them to go through that.
That's right. I said to Catherine and Jackson, we were having dinner at home, and I kind of jokingly, we were watching news as we eat, and I said, if you ever let that happen to me, I'll come back and haunt you. Right? You as a loving spouse and as a loving child should not allow that to happen to me. I'm only 50, and
Look, you're still spry.
I'm still.
You're
spry.
still spry.
But I mean, you think about those things, right? When you serve in office, you go, I mean, what would keep people? Because again, if you're serving in office and you're doing it right, you're not lining your pockets, you're not getting rich. I know what people say. They think everybody in politics is crooked and corrupt. It's not true. 99% of the people who serve for the right reasons, and they might be on the other side of the political aisle from me, right? But they come at it with a servant's heart, and they want to do it for their reasons and for what their convictions are. So and I think at least when Joe Biden started, that's who he was. Now we the Hunter and phone calls with the Chinese and involvement in Ukraine, all that. I don't know what is the truth and what's not the truth. But I do know this. I know that he is staying too long and he needs to go. And it makes me wonder more about the people around him. And now that leads more credence and credibility to the rumor mills that are out there that, hey, maybe they are holding on for some other reason. And because you know what? Once you make that decision to leave, it's not that hard. I know.
Yeah.
I have experienced it. It took me about 24 hours, but and if you knew that from dealing with the situation I talked about the state senator from before, people around him loved him, and they want, of course they had, it was hard-headed like most of us, right? But had that conversation and was able to convince him to get out. Somebody around him could have that conversation, and they're just holding on for too long, and that sends so many red flags. And you want to talk conspiracy theories. That's a lot of conspiracies that you could spin out of that.
Absolutely, 100%. And so I think, one of the things that's talked about is, okay, so if he decides to withdraw, you go to an open convention, essentially. Obviously, Kamala Harris is terrifyingly so, is probably the odds-on favorite. Interesting news coming out today. The DNC chair, I guess it's still Howard Dean, came out and basically said he'd love to see a Harris Cooper ticket. So threw out Roy Cooper as a potential running mate with Kamala Harris. They, of course, are on stage together, I think, today in Fayetteville for a rally. But interesting, note what could potentially be the next act for Roy Cooper as he leaves the governor's mansion.
Well, look, and he really can't go wrong. I mean, he's a lame duck essentially here in North Carolina because he's leaving office. So he's only got a couple of months. So he could go onto the ticket, right? It doesn't hurt him. Chances are they lose, I imagine. My belief is, in political talk, one of the conversations I had this morning was that he's a potential challenger for the Tillis seat in 2 years. So he gets national spotlight. It puts him in a place to raise money nationally. He is a good fundraiser. That I don't know a real downside for him because he gets all the publicity, all the notoriety, and quite frankly, probably don't get the job. And that's a win in politics.
Well, and none of the blame because it's like, well, you came on board a sinking ship and it sank. Yeah, it's like nobody blames you for that.
Well, yeah, he could tell the story. I went on because my country needed me and people asked me to. And it's a good story to say, to write, but a good story to tell. But so I think that's certainly within the realm of possibilities. He whether true or not, he'd be perceived as kind of a moderate Southern governor. Democrats have seen that formula before. With if you look at Clinton Gore, they don't look like Gavin Newsom for sure. Now Kamala does, but Governor Cooper would end up in a probably pretty good space. And so I think that. And coincidentally, they're on stage together today. I mean, it's maybe a trial run. Let's see how this works. Let's see if there's good synergy. I mean, of course, he'd be there anyway.
Of course,
he's a sitting Democrat governor.
Yeah, exactly. But I think one of the things that I find interesting, if not, it's an interesting quandary for the Democratic Party because by most measures, Kamala Harris was not chosen because she was qualified to assume the presidency. Let's just be clear on that.
She brought California.
Yeah, she helped bring California, which was never going to go Trump anyway. But also she checked some boxes in the woke book, and so and Biden came out and said that that's what he was going to choose. So he was going to choose an African American woman, and he said that's who he was going to choose. So he had his mind made up on that.
Sure, J.D. Vance didn't come from Ohio by accident.
Exactly, came from exactly. There's strategic reasons why these things are done. So if you jettison her. Right. For somebody, who is that person and how do you keep, the remainder of a very large voting block of your party, which is the African-American vote, in your camp when you just jettisoned, the African-American vice president for who?
And you always got to remember that even though you might be well liked in certain segments of your own party, there are other people out there with the knives out, ready to get rid of you.
100%.
And one of the best ways to get her out of the way is run her in a situation where she can't win, and then she's disposed of.
Yes.
So there's political reasons to do those things.
Oh, 100%.
A big upside for Roy Cooper, big downside for Kamala Harris.
Yes, it is. You're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News Radio. We'll be right back.
There's more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, ending the work week on a bit of a cooler note, especially compared to what we've had over the last couple of weeks. Partly cloudy, temperatures warm into the mid and upper 80s this afternoon. And while the better rain and storm chance stays to our south and east, an isolated downpour or pop-up thunderstorm can't be totally ruled out for the afternoon and evening. Partly cloudy, we're back down around 70 overnight. Heading into the weekend, highs in the mid 80s, and we'll track a round of scattered showers and storms each afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. On Thursday, Brookdale Village in Huntersville welcomes Dave Scott Crow's Amusination Academy. An afternoon of imagination, music, and amusement will be on the green at Brookdale Village. Dave's Amusination concert and Pick Me Up Mike are crowd favorites. Come relax and enjoy, or take the stage. It's perfect for the whole family. The fun begins at 4:30 Thursday afternoon, July 18th on the green at Brookdale Village in Huntersville. Langtree Live continues their live music series on Thursday. Alex Key takes the stage at 7 p.m. for this free concert. Event time is 6:30. Bring your chairs early and enjoy the food and beverages that Langtree restaurants have to offer. We'll see you on Thursday evening for Langtree Live's free concert series. Come see the coolest cars, trucks, and motorcycles at Hot Rods and Hops this Friday night at RevFast in Mooresville. This monthly show welcomes all auto enthusiasts with vehicles on display, food trucks, beer from Hoptown Brewing, and the Hot Rod community. Come see old friends and make some new ones on Friday night after 5 at the Late Apex Storage Condos in Mooresville for Hot Rods and Hops. The kids edition of Battle of the Bands takes place Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville. 6 bands, 2 stages, song versus song, set versus set with 1 champion. Come see the future of the local music scene powered by Waves Entertainment. 4 p.m. Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville with the kids edition of Battle of the Bands. The Cookout Summer Shootout Series at Charlotte Motor Speedway gives you your midweek Need for Speed. This 10-race series, night number 9, is on Tuesday, July 23rd on the front stretch quarter-mile oval. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets, details, and information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Now back to We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News Radio with special guest hosts Representative Jason Saine and David. Like to be part of the show, 844 Studio 4. We all continue to stream live on the WSIC News app. So, going into, obviously next week will be the Democratic National Convention. What did you think of the RNC overall?
So I've been to a number of the national conventions. I was at Philadelphia as an alternate delegate and then went with a delegate to Tampa. So I've been to 2 of these, and I actually made delegate to Cleveland, but then, there's so few spots. I want to make sure other people get to do it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get to try this time because I wasn't sure what session was going to look like, if we'd still be in budget negotiations, which turns out we sort of kind of are. But I thought from having been at a number of these conventions, it had the energy and the unity of, I'd say, Reagan in 80. I think from a production standpoint, it was incredible. The first speech Donald Trump gave last night was outstanding. The second one was a little tough, right? Yeah. I mean, because it went too long. That's why if I got bags under my eyes, we stayed up for the whole thing. Our son left about 15 minutes from the end. But all in all, I think the messaging, the portrayal of what the Republicans are offering as an alternative to Joe Biden and the Democrats, I think was very impressive. And that's been across networks saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Networks don't want to give the Republicans compliments. Turns out, we don't actually open up the newspaper and read glowing articles all the time. But to see that kind of response from even the opposition, admit that this was a very well-run convention. It was a good production. It is a sales pitch, a 4-day sales pitch of why we're the party that you need to go with versus the other side. I think it was an outstanding convention. I think they did a bang-up job. The national chairman, of course, is from North Carolina, but everyone who planned that convention did a great job.
Absolutely, 100%. We do have a caller here on We're Just Saying on WSIC News. Hi, you're on with Representative Saine and David. Good morning.
Hello there. Just a quick comment on the other side of the coin here. I've been trying to get into even wanting to vote because I'm having a hard time finding a place to have it be my America. Okay? I feel like we're well versed on why not to vote for these men or whoever it may be that you're voting for. We're not doing enough of, in campaigns or whatever, of why you should vote for somebody. Okay? Like you're talking about retiring, and that sounded like I want to vote for you, but you're leaving. You see? And I just really believe that for the next little bit before the election, it should be why should you vote for this person, not why you shouldn't vote for the other guy. And then if they're rocking on their campaign money, throw it at the deficit. And then maybe everybody could maybe just donate $1 to the deficit. And, in 1 year, 1 million people make 52 million. And then we can start back together and not worrying about who is who, but what is the right thing to do.
Oh,
the
great.
right thing to do is to lead, is to lead with positivity, not over, fear and pain. It's not working. Kennedy himself said, let us not negotiate out of fear, nor should we ever fear to negotiate. Along with that same speech, what not can your country do for you, but what can you do for your country? I don't care what your party is, people. We got to get this thing figured out. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely, and thank you for the call. And I think, it is one of the interesting things that campaigns and you've seen this, throughout years. It really does just become about how awful your opponent is versus what are your ideas. It does get, and especially at the national level. Now, at the state level, I think you have the opportunity to really have an opportunity of competing ideas and to bring those forward. But at the national level, it really just comes to running the other guy into the ground or the other lady into the ground and seeing who gets the least, who's damaged the least.
Well, that's right. And you got to realize that the campaigns turn into 30-second spots because people have such short attention spans. We get a lot of calls in our office about, why did you do this, or why is it working this way, or what happened here? Because, media has such a limited space to actually report. And I spend a lot of times because they're very thin as far as reporters and things of that nature. I mean, it costs a lot of money to do these things. So far be it for me to defend the press, but in this instance, I will. It is hard for them to really get deep into the weeds and really understand. I spend a lot of time with reporters talking through why something happened, not even about the story itself, but how it came about. And these are people that are at the legislative building, right? But they can't be in 2 places at once, much less 5 meetings that are going on at the same time, realizing, the good that we do. Folks would be shocked to learn that 90, I don't know, if I ballpark it, 97, 98% of the things that we work on in Raleigh aren't partisan. Mm-hmm. There's broad agreement on those issues. No one questions it. My Democrat colleagues, my Republican colleagues, we go, oh, yeah, that's the thing we need to do for the state. And I get to see it at that level. It is much different in Washington, D.C. They don't talk. It's all a fight. It's all about who's going to be the talking head tonight on Fox or CNN or MSNBC. And what jabs can I get in quickly? You rarely get deep policy discussions. Now, that's boring to most people, right? They don't have, they're taking kids to ball practice and dance practice and all the things that make people busy in their lives. So those things really don't get discussed. I mean, even last night, we talk about it being a production, and that's what a national convention is for the parties. But at those productions, you only get small bits and pieces of what they actually want to do. And part of that is the format. Part of it is the short attention span. But I always tell, when I do get someone in our, calling into our office or writing our office, and then walking them through process and walking them through why things happen the way they happen. It's just like with the debt, as the caller was saying. A magic wand would be awesome if we could actually have that serious discussion about national debt and what it means to the country. Now, some debt is good. There's some arguments to that as to why that is a good and healthy thing for the country. It does help to keep inflation down and so forth. But too much debt means inflation goes up. So, I mean, and getting folks to a level of understanding of why things happen the way they happen is very difficult to do. I put out a newsletter, I do a radio show, all of those things to try to communicate at least a format. I mean, I at least get an hour each week to tell folks my side of what's going on. But, but then I have to deal with the ankle biters, as I call them. Leaving office, even if you didn't like what I did, you think they'd say, well, peace out. But, I see a couple things from a convicted felon that's a guy from high school that wants to bite at my ankles, has never said a good thing about me being in office. Though when I see him face to face, that keyboard warrior turns into the mildest, meekest person you've ever met in your life.
Amazing how that works, isn't it?
Amazing. But I saw his post, good riddance. And I thought, well, to you too, pal. Actually, mine was a little bit more animated. But, that time, I didn't respond to him, of course. But people want to believe the worst in people, and particularly people that are serving in office. I mean, you hear it all the time. I never hear or never think when I hear someone's leaving office that, there must be something wrong. I got some of those things. How's your health? Are you under investigation? Dumb things like, no, I'm just tired of not being with my family and being able to make an income. There's legitimate reasons. But I don't, but a lot of people, especially in social media, because, I get looks at my post. I get people excited. I get people talking. It's this wow factor, and it's a shame. And so I think the caller's absolutely right. We don't really get to talk. I don't know that we'll solve the national debt on the show, but at the same time,
we need a couple of shows for that.
We need a couple of shows, but we could do it. we like the movie Dave, right? We
exactly.
Just sit down but and we've solved it in North Carolina. It's just it's a matter of scale. It could be solved. And so, when you don't get to have those really deep conversations, that I think is a real disservice to the American people.
I agree. And one of the things, and I think, you raise a good point. It's like, it's talking your opponent down. But I think one of the things that I think is we have, when they started talking about, after the assassination attempt, we need to tamp down the political rhetoric. It is a vicious cycle of rhetoric. Everyone is to blame. No one is, because here's the thing is the media, the candidates know, all right, and political figures know, the hotter the rhetoric, the more likely they get on CNN
airtime.
or they get airtime. The more likely they get click-throughs on TikTok or on Twitter or on Facebook. And the media says, hey, we want eyes on us, so let's air the most inflammatory things we possibly can. And the politicians know that. So I'm going to say the most inflammatory thing I can. The media is going to put it on, and so everyone sees it. And then from there, it's like, it's just a cycle, and then we consume it. Yeah. We're like, oh, I got to go watch. He really said that? And then it just repeats and rinses every single time. If we had a situation, I mean, even if you had a candidate that said, I'm going to say the most inflammatory things I possibly can, if you had a legitimate, responsible media who said, you know what, I'm not putting that on the air.
Yep.
I'm not going to put that on. Yep. That has no place in it. If and again, I'm all for free speech, but there does come a point where free speech, I mean, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, right?
Right.
There is a line that you would think good and decent people could agree is no longer okay. And it just continues to feed a vicious cycle. And that's where we find ourselves.
Well, and I'll tell people who are listening, watch headlines and then read stories.
Yes.
The headlines are phenomenal. I've read headlines describing a meeting and then the reporting actually describing the meeting that happened, but the headline doesn't match the story. It's clickbait. It's exactly what it is. And every now and then I'll say to the reporter, well, I'm glad I could be part of your clickbait today. I don't write the headlines. I said, no, I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming the person that wrote the headline. You read things and you go, well, that's a big nothing burger by the time you read a lot of these stories, right? But it's the headline that gets you. And because they know a lot of times that might be the only thing that people are paying attention to. And so it is just very hard to cut through that clutter.
It really is. It really is. Well, so obviously going into retirement, but like over the course of the next couple of weeks, just hanging on the lake, hanging out with Jackson and enjoying yourself?
Got a couple of conferences I'm going to go to fulfill some duties I promised, and be on the lake with Jackson. He's got his boater's license, and now we're working on his driver's license. Also soon, we're buying a car this weekend for him, a used car and a big car so that he's safe. But all those things. But, we'll be doing a lot of that, enjoying it. I still have my business. People forget that we're just part-time legislators, so I still actually have to work.
Yes.
And try to do that. But, man, I'm looking forward to it. And I'll still be around, probably be a talking head, commenting on politics. I'll be around.
Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great weekend.
All right.